Hello, folks. Hope that you're having just a great day today. Today, I want to take a pause from my normal reviews and so forth and kind of talk about where I see the channel going with some of my future reviews. And I want to talk about the big three in science fiction, and we're going to take a look at each of the three. I'm going to compare and contrast their writing styles, what they do, how they write, and so forth. And the big three writers. One of the things that I used to do with my channel is I used to do basically a few different types of ideas. The main idea of my channel is to give an opportunity to do reviews for books, science fiction, in science fiction, horror, and fantasy, in those three genres, and to do books, novellas, short stories. All these sorts of different methods of sort of written storytelling. Typically, I do older stuff that people haven't read, haven't heard of, or writers that they have, but other works by them, and so forth. So for example, all three of the authors that we're talking about today, I've actually done some of their works. But I've done them in very different sort of ways. But we're taking a look at them here, the big three in science fiction. But one of the things I've done here and there is I've realized is that I've actually been unfair to science fiction in my videos so far, and over the next month or so, we're going to be making up for that. In fantasy, I've done some classic works of fantasy. I haven't done them all, but I've done Elric. I've done. And Dorian Hawkmoon, I've done Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion stuff. I've done works in the Amber series by Roger Zelazny. I've done classic fantasy works too, like The Worm, Ouroboros, those sorts of things that are classic and older fantasy works too. And I've done the same in horror too. I've done everything from The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft, to The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen. I've done M.R. James. I've done Saki. I've done a lot of these classic writers and their best works in horror. All the way through novels like The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. So I've done classics in horror, and I've done classics in fantasy, but I haven't done as many classics in science fiction. I've done a couple here and there. I did Ring World by Larry Niven, which won a Hugo Award in the early 70s. I've done a few here and there, Childhoods, and by Arthur C. Clarke, which is considered one of his top 3 novels. So I've done the occasional big name work, but I haven't done as much with science fiction as I have done with the other genres. So what I want to do for the next month or so is to get caught up. And we're going to be doing a lot of classics, particularly in science fiction. And we're going to start with the big three. And you can expect that I'm going to be doing the big three in science fiction. And I want to get basically caught up. So I want to do a lot of science fiction. So expect that for the next month or so, that we're going to be knocking out a lot of classics from science fiction. And particularly the big three. So what are the big three? So the big three in science fiction are 3 separate writers that have major different ways of writing, have written different things, have been impactful to the genre in different ways. The first of the big three is Robert Heinlein, a guy who needs no introduction. He's done Stranger in a Strange Land. He's done Starship Troopers. Both of those won Hugos. Another one of his Hugo Award winners is The Moon is a Harsh Mistress from the later 60s. One of his works that is still out there. It's won a Hugo. He is I consider him the philosopher. His works lack action. Starship Troopers is a military science fiction. It's the least actiony military science fiction you're ever going to find. Stranger in a Strange Land is 600 pages. At least 300 pages of that's philosophy. And he writes different sort of philosophies. This is a conservative paean to the military, to patriotism, to traditional values. Starship Troopers is a definite sort of paean. Stranger in a Strange Land, on the other hand, is an absolute paean to the Flower Children, the anti-war movement in America, and became their sort of Bible, if you will. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is a libertarian manifesto. It's all about libertarian blues, libertarian beliefs, and so forth, and is a big book for libertarian fans. So Robert Heinlein's going to be one person we're going to be bringing up. I've done a token short story by Robert Heinlein, but I haven't done a lot of his novels and those sorts of things. Now that short story is considered one of his best. It is considered one of the best science fiction short stories. It actually was in the Science Fiction Hall of Fame by the Science Fiction Writers of America. So it's been awarded. So it was worth my time doing that with you. But at the same time, I've not done anything else by Heinlein. So we're gonna. Again, my channel originally was to give you different ideas, different takes, different things that you could read in the genres. But I think we're going to start doing some major things. It's also a good onboard ramp for people who may be looking for a Stranger in a Strange Land review, for example, and then they come to the channel and then they see Stranger in Strange Lands being reviewed, and then they go to some other stuff. So we'll be knocking out some Heinlein over the next month or so. You can expect me to go ahead and start doing that. The next place we're going to go is Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke is another one of the big three. Arthur C. Clarke is a guy who's done a lot of stuff from his Childhood's End, which I've already reviewed for you. By him, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Rendezvous with Rama, which have won a Hugo Award and a Nebula Award in the 70s. My favorite book by him, the Fountain of Paradise, which I read in one day, and it's also won a Hugo and a Nebula in 1980. And from his later career. So we'll be taking a look at Arthur C. Clarke. Now, unlike Heinlein, Heinlein is a philosophical writer, and Arthur C. Clarke is he writes shorter stories. They're not going to be nearly as long as Robert Heinlein's are. There's very little philosophy in them. What they are is the hardest science fiction you're going to find. They are, I call him the science, emphasis on science fiction writer out there. Science fiction. I know that's duplicative, but he is the hard science. 2001: A Space Odyssey is all about what would an actual mission be like. He does the investigation, he does the research. He is all about this hard science. Not just in the hard science as half of that genre of science fiction. He is really about the science aspects of science fiction. He really cares about that a lot and that unpacking. And so he has his books and his stories from Childhood's End on to Hammer of God, which I've reviewed for you too. All have a hard science, a hard. He's the scientist of the big three, and his works are the scientific aspects of those. He is the hard scientist, and so his works will reflect that. They won't be as long as a Heinlein's because he's not spending half the story talking about philosophical things. That's not his point. Also, Arthur C. Clarke has this take, if you will. It tends to be a lighter take. It's not I'm going to hit you over the head with the point over and over and over again, but there's always a takeaway from an Arthur C. Clarke's novel, a sort of or a short story for that matter. Of the big three, he's the one I have reviewed the most for you. So we're going to do just a few novels of his, and then we'll move on. I won't be doing as much with Arthur C. Clarke as I have with some of the others. But we'll do 2001: Space Odyssey and Rendezvous with Rama, and we'll probably also do The Fountains of Paradise too. So those are, I think, three of his other big works. So we'll do those two, knock those out for you. And then finally, the other ones of the big three is Isaac Asimov. And I have a lot of Asimov stuff, from iRobot series to the Foundation series. I have the entire thing. I also have some of his things outside the genres I look at, like the Union Club mysteries and so forth. He's probably the big three that I had the most books of. But I've only done, like Robert Heinlein, I've only done one review of his stuff. Now, that was Nightfall that I did his review of, and Nightfall is considered by many to be the best science fiction short story ever written. And it was also one of the ones that's in the Hall of Fame, like the Heinlein story. So I have done that for you, but again, I haven't done a lot of other things by him. So we're going to start knocking out some things by Isaac Asimov. I'm going to start with Foundation. And so we're going to do some things in that genre. Now, Isaac Asimov may have had a scientific background, but I consider him the social scientist of the big three. He's not the philosopher. He's not the hard science. He is the softer social scientist. That may not be his training, but that's where he goes. For example, in Foundation, you're going to see this. You're going to see this in all the stories. It's got courtroom trials. It's got mayoral elections. The whole concept of psychohistory is just a future version of sociology, anthropology, and you're going to see that not just in that. For example, Nightfall has an incredibly strong understanding of sociology and anthropology as a part of that telling of that story. That story is better because it's a social scientist story. And so I consider Asimov to be the social scientist of the big three. It may not be his training, but that's where his passion lies. And some of his works have had influences in the social sciences too. And so there are a number of those sorts of things that are out there. And again, we'll be taking a look and starting to move into Isaac Asimov as well as some of the other ones of the big three. And I'm not going to limit myself just to the big three. There are going to be other science fiction classics that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be knocking out Dune. We're going to be knocking out The Forever War by Joel Haldeman. So we're going to be taking a look at some of those. And again, over the next month or so, some of these big, giant classics that are out there in the genre, again, to get me caught up, because I don't think I've done as many classics of science fiction as I've done of the other two genres, so I'm going to get caught up. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to be doing a bunch of those, and specifically the big three of science fiction, Heinlein, Asimov, and Clarke. And so we'll get you caught up with those three. And then there you go. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Let me know what you think about it. Are you going to enjoy the next month or so? Is this going to be something you're going to look forward to? Or would you prefer me to do some more horror stuff, some more fantasy stuff? Just let me know what you think about it in the comments below. But I hope that this will be an opportunity for science fiction fans of this channel to have some more classics and to have some more talk pieces for those people that are out there. So there you are. I'll leave you to it. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. There's going to be so many more of these to follow. And thankfully, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and watching my video. We all have so many things happening in our lives. So the fact that you spent this time with me is so humbling, and I really do appreciate that. Thanks again and have a great day.